Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and I agree for Victoria, and I also agree for my eardrums after listening to that last 15 minutes of rubbish. Honestly, what a load of rubbish. And let's debunk a few things, shall we? The member for Tarneit, he's going to walk out of the chamber because he knows I'm going to towel him up on this. The member for Tarneit just went into social housing, and this is part of the reason why I agree for Victoria. He banged on about our history of social housing and how bad we were. Well, in 2014, there was 13,000 applicants for social housing. Now there's over 60,000, member for Tarneit. Yeah, I thought you'd walk out. Now there's only 60,000 applicants for social and affordable housing in this state. Now there's the first grievance of the day. That, and I'm on a regional committee at the moment, I won't go into too much of it, but this government is failing across the state when it comes to housing. People are on waiting list after waiting list and they cannot get a roof over their head. And that is a fact. I'm trying to grieve, go away. Okay, Deputy Speaker, it's hard to grieve when I've got a baby smiling at me. It's hard to be angry when that's happening.
Oh, this is why we're here. We're doing it for.
Okay, let me get back to the debate. There is no crueler tax than what the government brought in last week with the fire services volunteer levy. And we heard the member for Gippsland South touch on it earlier. It is a cruel tax on our farmers. At the moment, our farmers are really struggling. They're really struggling. A lot of those farmers are CFA volunteers, but some of them aren't. Some of them aren't CFA volunteers. And whether you're up in the north of the state, northwest, and even down in West Gippsland, Deputy Speaker, our farming community is really struggling. And they can't afford this tax. They just can't afford it. People say to me, oh, you're not in drought. It's green in West Gippsland. Yeah, it's green because we get a frost and the grass greens up, but there's no growth. They're buying in feed every day. They're buying in water every day. Now, this is cruel to do this to our farming community, but it's not just the farming community, it is every household, every business in this state. And this is why the Liberal and National Party said we will reverse it, because we know there's cost of living pressures across the state, in every sector. You can't turn around when we've got the public of Victoria in this much trouble and then introduce another tax. Just after the new Treasurer said, we won't introduce any more taxes. It was the first bill back. It was a tax. And then the next bill, the gambling bill, another tax. Just after they said no more new taxes. Exactly the same rubbish that Daniel Andrews said in 2014. We will not introduce any new taxes into Victoria. 61 taxes later, new or increased taxes. 61. So how in the hell are Victorians meant to believe this government and this present Treasurer when they break their promise in the first budget? New taxes straight away. New taxes. And this state is under so much pressure. People are under so much pressure. We are in so much debt, it is beyond comprehension. $194 billion worth of forecast debt. Now, we're getting into some serious territory here with debt. I thought it was bad enough at what it was when I got elected, or the forecast at $167 billion when I got elected, but now $194 billion with $1.2 million a day in interest? And that's if we keep our current credit rating. And let's not forget that. That's a very important point, because right at the moment, our credit rating agencies are looking at the state of Victoria and saying it is a basket case, they can't fix it. The Treasurer is going to do some pretty hard grovelling, I imagine, to try and keep our credit rating in check. Because if we lose that current credit rating, what's our interest bill going to be per day then? Or per hour? It's $1.2 million an hour now. Will it go up to $2 million an hour? This is something this state cannot afford. It is something every Victorian can't afford because we know that interest going out the door is not delivering any services that we need. And that's a fact. And when I looked at the budget the other day and I saw, and I've just listened to the other side say, all you guys do is cut, cut, cut. Well, in the budget the other day, where the West Gippsland Hospital is, $12.99 million in reduced project scope, and that means cuts. No matter what way you spin it, it's a cut. A $13 million cut in hospitals. Done by this government. Done by this government. Hasn't been done by us. They're in government, not us. When we talk about cuts, and the member for Tarneet leaned into the public service, he goes, we cut, cut, cut. I don't think he's been doing too much reading lately. It's announced on the 19th of May, 2025. Several thousand public servants' jobs will go. That's by this government. So out of the 57,000 odd public servants in this state, whose job is that? Several thousand public servants' jobs will go. There's been another one that said 1,200 jobs will go. That's by this government. This government is cutting the public service, not the opposition, the government. And this is the thing. The government like to make us out to be the bad guys all the time, but they're doing that right now. It says the CPSU is fighting to save 3,000 jobs. So out of those 57,000 public servants, whose jobs are they? Whose jobs? Because those 57,000 public servants will be going home wondering, is that my job? And then their partner will be thinking, is that their job? So that's going to put a lot of people in doubt of their future in this state, not to mention the state's in a terrible condition at the moment. It's in a terrible condition. And when we talk about housing and building, our social housing, it's all spin by this government. 80,000 houses a year, 800,000 over 10 years. Have not reached that target at all. Was it a factual target? Was it an aspirational target? Who knows? I'm tipping it was more aspirational than factual. But they haven't reached that target. We've just got a building bill going through the upper house this week that will, if get passed, hamstring the building industry. It will be less homes delivered because you will have less builders to deliver homes, because this bill will push builders out of the industry. This is why I agree for Victoria, because there's nothing this government does that they can get right. Nothing they can do. They can't deliver a project on time or on budget. $48 billion in budget blowouts. That's an amazing, obscene amount of money to mismanage. Obscene amount of money. This government's not brave enough to stand up to the CFMEU to get projects under control. I mean, the other side were having a go at us saying they won't do projects, we won't do this, we won't do that. We will, but the difference between us and them is we will do them on budget because we won't be beholden to the CFMEU. A criminal, corrupt organisation that this government has just let run riot in this state for the best part of a decade. And they've done nothing to address it. Yes, the CFMEU has been put into administration by the federal government, but that's still not stopping the behaviour on the ground. We've seen that time and time again. We've seen news article, we saw it on television where we see the women getting abused on CFMEU sites, which is disgraceful behaviour. And I've said it before in this chamber and I'll say it again. I've got good friends that are in the CFMEU and they are good people, but this government has done nothing to get the criminal element out of the CFMEU. Refused to bring in police checks to protect good men and women of the CFMEU. Blatantly refused. We tried to introduce a bill to do that, to protect the good workers, but the government, who's meant to be for the worker, refuses to do it. because they're too scared that their donations will dry up from the CFMEU. And we know the CFMEU give the Victorian Labor government a fair bit of coin, but I tell you what, this government actually needs to stand up for the workers like they used to, not be beholden to the corrupt thugs of the CFMEU. Start doing what matters. That was one of your election slogans in the that was one of the government election slogans in the 2022 election. And I mean, the member for Lavington touched on it earlier. Getting things done, govern for all Victorians. That was the slogan. But the problem is, this government isn't governing for all Victorians. And if we talk about infrastructure delivery, the Gippsland rail line down in my patch runs through the mall all the way down to Bairnsdale, down to East Gippsland. They were meant to duplicate the whole line. It was about a $490 million investment from the federal government, about $40 million from state. They haven't completed the project. Not only that, they went back to get another $380 million from the federal government, and guess what? Still haven't completed the project, still have not duplicated the line from Bunyip to Longwarry, which was in the original scope of works. And guess what? They've cut that out. There's a cut they don't want to talk about, and they don't want to talk about it because they cut it on a report that doesn't exist. An environmental report that hasn't been done, doesn't exist, and it was the Premier that gave me that statement when she was the Minister for Infrastructure. And I've done my research, that report does not exist. She has misled my community about that rail line. And why hasn't it been done? Because they constantly run out of money. And this government goes back to the feds, puts their hand out, we need more money because we can't manage it. This government's like a petulant child. Honestly, it's like a petulant child. A child you give $100 to and say, go spend $100, but they go out and spend $200 and ask for more, with no accountability. That's the problem. And this is why I agree for Victoria, because every budget blowout, every bit of waste, somebody misses out. And in my community, this budget that came through again, the West Gippsland Hospital, delayed again. Delayed again. Meant to start in 2024. Not going to start to the back end at 2026 at best. Meant to be completed by 2028. Now, a hospital that size will take 4 years to complete. We're not going to see that at best till 2030, and by then our population would have grown by about another 7,000 to 8,000 people, which is going to put Latrobe Valley Hospital under pressure and any other surrounding hospital under pressure. Not to mention the pressure that exists in that hospital, and those staff work in terrible conditions. That's why I agree for Victoria, and I agree for my electorate. Our roads and intersections are poor. I've asked the Minister for Roads on several occasions about an intersection in Bunyip where it's accident after accident and will not get fixed. All as I get is a press release and a little line at the bottom that says we're monitoring the situation. I mean, the government can't even get the surplus right. It was reported we were going to have a $1.5 billion surplus. Well, all of a sudden, $900 million went missing and we only had a $600 million surplus. Where'd the $900 million go? More waste? More budget blowouts? Or is it all getting funnelled into the suburban rail loop? The very project that could bury this state. The very project that the rating agencies are warning against by downgrading our credit rating. The government has to seriously rethink the suburban rail loop because this state can't afford it. It was announced in 2018 at $50 billion. But in 2018, we didn't have the debt level we have today. Nowhere near it. But now it's $214 billion, with a debt of $194 billion and paying $1.2 million an hour in interest. No, I agree for this state because this government, in a word, has stuffed it. People are hurting all over the state. Yes, the government builds things, but they waste so much. And that's what's costing Victoria. And this is why I agree for Victoria, because the waste of this government is going to cost jobs and it's going to cost community services they desperately need.